In this video, I'm going to talk about Kolhberg's stages of moral development. I'm also going to talk about Carol Gilligan's response to Kolhberg and a critique of it. Kolhberg says you have three main stages of moral development: the pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. And each of these is further divided into two substages. So first, pre-conventional. The pre-conventional stage is when you are controlled by external rewards and punishments. The first substage in the pre-conventional stage is heteronomous morality, and that is when behavior is tied to punishment. This is similar to Piaget's idea of heteronomous morality, where it's the idea of imminent justice, and if you do something bad, something bad will be done to you. So that is the focus in the first substage. The focus on the second substage, individualism, instrumental purpose, and exchange, is the idea that you have to be nice to others so they are nice to you. That's a little bit more on the reward side of the pre-conventional stage. So those are the two substages of pre-conventional. For the conventional stage, the second one, this is really when laws and rules are revered for their own sake and are to be obeyed. If you want to connect this with Piaget, that would fall also into the heteronomous morality component, where you can't break the rules. If they're set, that's the way they are. And this one also has two substages. The two substages in the conventional part are mutual interpersonal expectations, relationships, and interpersonal conformity, and social systems morality. So let me get these definitions down for you. So in the third substage, that mutual interpersonal expectations, relationships, and interpersonal conformity, what that focuses on is trust, caring, and loyalty to others. That is the basis for moral judgments. So is this something that is going to be good for others? Is this showing trust in others? And then the fourth substage, social systems morality, this is really about what does the law say? What is justice? What is social order? This can also be seen as connected to the heteronomous morality stage of the Piaget component. This is still about the importance of following the rules. And then finally, you have the post-conventional stage. The post-conventional stage focuses on how the moral code is determined by considering various alternatives and making a choice based on reason. The two substages here are the social contract or utility and individual rights substage, and the universal ethical principle substage. So I'll write the definitions and then I will break these down a little bit. So again, the main definition for the post-conventional is a personal moral code determined by considering various alternatives and making a choice based on reason. And the two substages, the social contract or utility and individual rights, that says that the values, rights, and principles transcend the law. You can question the validity of the laws and evaluate them based on how they preserve and protect fundamental human rights. So laws are only as good as their ability to protect the values and rights that they were created to protect. If they're not doing their job, you don't have to follow them just because they're laws. And then the universal ethical principle, the final, the highest stage in Kolhberg's theory, that sixth substage, is when you have a moral standard based on universal human rights. You really don't care about the laws at all. So these are the three main stages, with each having the two substages for Kolhberg. And the way Kolhberg measures what stage you're in, the way he developed these, is through what he calls moral dilemmas. And the famous one is of Hans, whose wife is sick and going to die unless she gets a medicine. And the medicine costs $5,000 to make, and Hans has $5,000, but The pharmacist in town is charging $10,000 for it, and Hans does not have $10,000, and the pharmacist won't sell it to him for less. And if Hans does not get this medicine, his wife is going to die. So what should Hans do? Should he let his wife die? Should he steal the medicine for her and leave the $5,000? So in this moral dilemma, Hans does the latter. He steals the drug, leaves the 5,000, and gives it to his wife. And Kolhberg asks two questions. He asks, is this a good or a bad thing, what Hans did? Is it what he should have done? And then why? And when determining what substage you're in, it really doesn't matter if you say, yes, this is good, no, this is bad. That is irrelevant for Kolhberg. What Kolhberg cares about is the why. Why do you think that? So if you say, no, he shouldn't have taken the medicine because it's wrong to steal, you're not allowed to break into stores, then that is definitely going to fall into the conventional stage because you're focusing on following the rules. If it's about how it's totally unethical for the pharmacist to charge that much money and you can take the drug because it's more important to save lives, that's going to be more post-conventional. If you're talking to a 4-year-old and the kid says, oh yeah, because the wife's going to be so happy when Hans comes home with the drug and she gets to live, then that's very much going to be pre-conventional. It's about getting that reward. Your wife's going to be happy with you because you were nice to her. So it's the why, not the yes or no. Another example of a moral reasoning one that's slightly trickier would be Joe's a 14-year-old boy. He wants to go to camp very much. His father promised him he could go if he saved up money for it himself. He worked hard at his paper route. He saved up the $100 it cost to go to the camp and a little more besides. But just before camp was going to start, his father changed his mind. Some of his friends decided to go on a special fishing trip, and Joe's father was short the money it would cost. So he told Joe to give him the money he'd saved for the paper route. Joe didn't want to give up going to camp, so he thinks of refusing to give his father the money. Should he refuse to give his father the money? Why or why not? And again, this is not about if you say, yes, Joe should give his father the money, or no, Joe should not give his father the money. It's the explanation for why or why not that would determine what stage you're in. Do you focus on obeying your parents? That's going to be more of a conventional stage. Do you focus on being a good boy or good girl? That's going to also fall into that conventional stage. Do you focus on not wanting to have the father punish Joe? That's going to be pre-conventional. If you focus on the overall standards, he worked hard, he deserves this, that's going to be more post-conventional. So that helps you decide what stage you're in. Now, the other component of this video is Carol Gilligan. One complaint with Kolhberg is that he's a wee bit sexist and ethnocentric for two reasons. One is, lo and behold, Westerners tend to score higher to be more morally developed in Kolhberg's ways than non-Western individuals. In addition, men score higher than women. And there are many psychologists that say it's not because Westerners and men are so much more moral than women or non-Westerners. It's because it's a biased way of thinking about morality. And so one person who's created a different perspective on this is someone named Carol Gilligan. So I'm going to erase all this and add in Gilligan's two types of morality that she says go with this. Carol Gilligan says that you have a justice perspective and you have a care perspective. And she would put Kolhberg into this justice perspective. His theory would fall more into this one. In this, you focus more on the rights of the individual and with moral decisions being made independently. Carol Gilligan would say the reason women tend to score lower is because women don't have a justice perspective as much as men. For women, they will fall more into the care perspective. The care perspective focuses on interpersonal connectedness and relationships, that it's more important to focus on how your decision affects relationships than more than you think about things like justice or exclusively right or wrong in the moment. And this perspective is really lacking from Kolhberg's theory, Gilligan would say. And again, women would have more of this care perspective, as well as non-Western cultures, ones that are more collectivistic, are going to care more about relationships than individualistic societies. So Carol Gilligan's justice and care perspective would be in contrast to Kolhberg's moral development perspective.